You want to run your own design studio, but you don't want to feel stressed about money all the time or work crazy hours. Today, let's talk about how to build a design business that is actually profitable. Also, none of these tips will be about getting more clients. Hi, I'm Malin, and I started my design studio about 10 years ago with my now husband. We've had our fair share of late nights and lots of stressful money conversations, but there are a couple things that we've picked up along the way that really have made a difference for our business, so I thought I would share them with you and they might help you as well. I do want to preface that none of these tips will be an overnight get rich quick tip. It's all going to be things that are going to need a little bit of planning, but in a few months when you've done these for a little bit, you're going to be so happy that you got started now. So let's dive in. Number one is to focus on getting repeat work rather than chasing after new clients. It's so much easier to sell to someone who already loves your work and know that you can do a good job. Hiring someone new is a much bigger risk for them because they know you're going to be a great partner to collaborate with, but someone new is someone unknown. One of the biggest reasons that I personally was able to go full-time was because about 75% of our clients come back for at least one project, but some of them have stuck around for years. So how can you get that same result? First off, make sure that your process is super nice for your clients. You want to make sure that they feel comfortable in the process, they always know what's going on, and that you deliver on time and exceed their expectations. If you're a little bit unsure of what goes into a good process, I actually have this series that I created where I share my entire branding process. So I'll make sure to put that in a card and I'll put that down in the description as well. But generally, these are the steps that goes into most creatives' process and mine as well. We want to think about the overall deliverables and the experience that we're giving them, but we really don't want to forget about the way that our clients are going to feel throughout this process. This might be the first time they're working with a creative, so we want to make sure that we're avoiding jargon, that we're always guiding them through the steps and they feel super comfortable about what the end result is going to be like. This is the same as for any customer service. For example, if you go into a cafe, the atmosphere, the way you're greeted, the interior design might be as important for you when you're choosing a cafe as the quality of the coffee, for example. Next, suggest the project to work on next before you wrap up your first one. So I like to do this in my handoff package where I put almost like a little mini proposal where I'm suggesting services we can work on next, general timelines and general pricing. Because at this point, you know that client, so you can do a little bit of a tailored suggestion for them and you know how they're going to be to work with as well. I created a template a couple weeks ago for the newsletter, but I thought because we're making this video, I'll make it public to anyone. It's set up in Canva so that regardless what program you're working on, anyone can access it. So I'll make sure to pop a link down in the description as well. Maybe the ultimate way to suggest ongoing work is with retainers. So a retainer is when you have either a specific number of hours or a specific service like a social media content pack or something that you're offering every month. This means that you have a steady income source that's going to be there every single month. And it can be really lovely to work with clients this way because you understand each other's processes and you get into a really efficient workflow. One thing to keep in mind when you're doing retainers is to make sure that you're really specifying the conditions, because otherwise it can come and bite you a little bit in the end. So for example, let's say that they don't use all the hours in a month. Do they roll over to the next month or do they disappear? So make sure that you specify all of these things before your client signs that contract. Let me know in the comments if you want me to make a whole video about retainers, because that might be quite an interesting one. The second strategy to running a profitable design business is to cut costs. And I know this one might seem a little bit silly, but what's the point of us working our butts off and making more money if there's all these things that we don't actually use draining our bank accounts? You might have subscriptions that you forgot that you actually took out, or maybe there's that office space that you really wish you would go to more, but it's just a bit too far from home and you don't end up using it as much. So maybe those are expenses that you could cut. I highly suggest that you have a look at your bank statements and try to think about, is this worth me working more hours or having less free time, for example? If it is, maybe it's something that's really helping your business or something that's necessary. That's fine, keep it, otherwise cut it. Number 3 is to become a lot more efficient. And with this, I absolutely don't mean work yourself harder or try to find mental hacks for things. I'm talking about finding templates and processes that really save you a ton of time, because there are so many tools and ways that you can structure your business that will make a huge difference. With things like templates and pre-written replies to emails and common questions, for example, you can just use that right away and you don't have to start thinking or coming up with something new. My favorite way to save time is to batch a lot of content, so doing the same type of task on one day and then switching to a different task a different day. So for example, today I am batching filmed content. So that means I am filming this YouTube video, but I'm also filming 11 reels that will go out on Instagram over the next couple weeks. This means that I don't have to get ready every day, I don't have to prepare the set every day, and so that just saves a ton of time. And the same thing can go for if you're working on, let's say, multiple proposals or multiple discovery meetings. You can actually prepare all these things together so that you're in the same headspace and also so that you have those templates open and don't have to keep switching between different tasks. You can also take the same approach here as you do with the cost cutting. So sometimes we spend lots of our time on tasks that don't actually move the needle that much. So for me, for example, that used to be blogging. I spent so much time putting out at least one blog a week. And although it did generate a little bit of traffic, considering how much time I put into it, it just wasn't worth it. And if you're a little bit unsure where your time is actually going, you can use a tool like Toggl, for example, and then start the Toggl tracker as soon as you start a new task. And then after a week or two, you can start actually analyzing where your time is going and if that seems like a good use of your time. Number 4 is to charge more, and that can be a little bit scary, but it is true. It makes complete sense to up your prices a little bit as your experience grows and as you get a bigger network, but how much should you actually raise your prices and how should you approach this? Because most creatives don't usually list their prices on their website, it can be quite hard to figure out what other people in your area are charging. I like to calculate my minimum living wage and use that as a baseline to make sure that the prices I'm charging are actually going to work with that. So I'll show you an example how that works. First, have a look at all the fixed costs that you have in a month. So the fixed cost means anything that you cannot live without. So for example, for me, that's my Adobe subscription, my computer, for example. So we want to make sure that we are calculating in things that we're not buying every month, like a computer, but we're splitting it over how much time that we need until we need to buy another one. So let's say, for example, that my computer needs to be replaced every 5 years. I'll just split that over how many months are in 5 years, and that's the cost that that computer is contributing, if that makes sense. Next up, we need to consider what your salary should be. And that should make sure that you're not just covering all your basic costs, but you have a bit of buffer as well. So that's why I'm saying living wage rather than a minimum wage. Then we need to consider any taxes. So for example, in Sweden, where I work, we have about a 50% tax on income if you're considering as a self-employed business. So that means that we have social taxes that goes to pension, the income tax, everything like that. So let's say that, for example, my minimum would be $2,000. That means I need to get $4,000 into my business in order to actually take those $2,000 out. Then we just add together those fixed costs with the taxes and the salary, and that gives us the minimum that we need to make each month. We can then consider how many hours that we can work and split that over how much we typically charge for a project and how long that project takes. And then we can see if those prices actually help us get to at least that level. Preferably, you would have quite a bit of buffer because some months we are not fully booked, and some months we might have projects that take a little bit longer, there might be scope creep happening. So make sure that you really are able to reach that with a bit of comfort, and if not, you need to raise your prices. Number 5 is to create other income sources that are not strictly from client work. And this one is a long game for sure, but it's one of my personal favorites. You might have noticed that besides doing client work, I'm also here on YouTube, I'm over on Instagram, I do courses, for example, on Skillshare and sell things in our shop. And these are things that I've built up over many, many years. And in the beginning, it's not going to yield a lot of results. But if it's something that you enjoy doing anyway, it can be a way to have a creative outlet, to try new things. It can be a way to actually get noticed by clients, so it can have that benefit as well. But find something that you're really passionate about and use that as a way to get more creative, and it could become a second income as well. Profitability can mean so many different things to different people. Personally, I value my time a lot, especially in the summer when my son is home and I'm working on my vegetable garden, but it can also mean something else to you. So make sure that you're thinking about what's valuable, if it's having a higher income, if it's having more time, and then find something that is going to work for your lifestyle and your preferences. I hope these tips help you get encouraged and that you can move your business forward in a way that feels great to you. And if you want to watch a video about how to get more clients, if that's more your pain point, I'm going to link it here and down in the description as well. Thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your projects and see you next time.